I see some new names that we haven't seen at some other meetings, so that's exciting. There we go, people are coming. We're recording this session, so since we're a little quiet right now, I'm doing a little entertainment for the recording. Heather loves to roll her eyes at me. It's a good time. It's all about diversity, Heather, and you and I are different, and that's a good thing. You're on mute, so whatever you're saying to me.
I figured that was the best way.
I think we'll wait like a couple more minutes and then we'll get started and I can let people in even while we're going.
You're at the office, Lottie?
I am.
Do you guys know how to put a background picture up?
We do. Heather,
Do you want to do it? Do you want to do it or do you want me to do it?
Well, I think it might be nice other than just having our office showing like that all the time.
if you go down to the, oh, go ahead.
No, it's all you.
If you go down to the bottom of your screen and hover over like the controls at the bottom of your Zoom screen, where it's at, where there's a video camera, it says stop video, but there's a little arrow pointing up to the right of that. And if you hover over that, it lets you choose virtual background.
Oh,
Do you see that?
yeah. So we hit that?
Hit that, and then if you haven't previously installed them, it will tell you to do so, and it takes just a minute, and then you can select the one that you want.
Ah,
So like if I do that right now, here's one for me.
so it says virtual background, but where would we find something to use?
Well, when you hit virtual background, it should give you the option of installing them.
I'll hit virtual background.
I did, honey, that's not doing anything.
What's it show?
It says none. So there isn't one to use.
No, there should be, because Zoom automatically gives you, I think, like 5 free ones that you can select from.
Oh, because we hit virtual background and then it shows choose and it has none.
And what is, does it have like a plus sign next to it?
Yes,
Okay, what happens when you click the plus sign?
it just says add image.
Okay, and click on that.
I did.
And is it letting you select something from like your camera roll or anything? Nothing?
No, nothing.
Okay. On the bottom, what do you have clicked? Do you have I have a green screen or mirror my video?
Yeah, both of them are checked.
So uncheck I have a green screen.
Computer
Doesn't meet the minimum requirements to use this feature.
Okay. I'm not sure without being able to see your screen,
Okay,
but we don't mind looking at your office.
okay. Oh, really?
We're focusing on you two, not your background. So it's okay with us.
Right. Well, we'll try to figure it out.
Okay. Heather,
I don't want to hold you up.
no worries. Heather, if you're there. why don't we go ahead and get started with the intros, and then as people filter in, I'll admit them in.
Great.
Oh my God.
Minutes since a bunch of people are just coming in. Okay. We are very pleased today to present our 4-part series on diversity in the workplace, sponsored by Beechwood Buzz. Given the climate in our country, we feel that this topic is relevant, timely, and timeless. A topic that all business owners, employees, and clients should be aware of about the companies they own, work for, and in which they collaborate. Today, we are excited to start diversity in the workplace by asking the question, what is a diverse workplace? How do I evaluate our workplace? How do I evaluate if your workplace is diverse? This allows us to be honest about our current culture and where it can be improved. And here to help us with this topic today is Dawn Jeanette Williams. Dawn is a culture improvement specialist, a published author, and the founder of the Cultural Toolbox blog. She works with organizations to help leaders unlearn poor behaviors and attitudes, providing the tools to retrain their thinking and form new habits that foster a positive and productive culture. If you have any questions or comments during the presentation, please type them in the group chat and we will call them out at the end of the presentation. So Dawn, if you'd like to go ahead and start.
Yes, good morning. Oops. Having my headphones on for me is a lot better. Good morning, everyone. It's so nice to see everyone's face so early in the day. Thank you so much, Heather, for the introduction. Again, my name is Dawn Jeanette Williams, and I work with a company called Imagine HR to help organizations to take thoughtful action to shape and mold a company culture they want to reap, and that they want to reap the benefits of a high-performing workplace. Even if business leaders are struggling with employee relations, through a discovery audit, consultation, policy reviews, and workplace training, we are well positioned to help organizations maintain a high level of workplace efficiency and morale. Before we get started, I know I need to share my screen, so let me do that. Let's see. And I don't want that, so not in LinkedIn. Here's the presentation. Sorry about that. So before we get started, a couple of things. If you see me wiping my eyes, it is not because I'm really sad about the information, though some of it is sad. But my allergies are really bothering me today, so forgive me if I'm constantly doing this during the presentation. But I want to play a video. Oh, my screen is paused. Can anyone see my screen? Lilia?
Oh, it just says we can, it just says you've started screen sharing. I think you have to select which screen you want to share.
Oh, not this one.
There we go. Oh, we had it for a second and then it went away.
That's okay. Here we are. Can you see it now?
Yep.
Perfect. I want to play a video clip. I'm not going to show the whole thing because I think some of you have seen this before, but it's really important that I share this with you today.
There's no sound.
There's no sound?
Mm-mm.
Oh, well, I'm going to skip past this video, but if you've seen it before, you know this little boy is really intense and he is trying to convince his mother that what he was doing was right. I think he was after some cupcakes or something. Whatever he was trying to get, he was very adamant that he was right. I am not, this little boy does not represent me. I'm just trying to find a way to appeal to you as persons of reason. So in this presentation today, I'd like for you to just keep an open mind as we go through the information. Okay, great. Diversity and inclusion, two words that are so often lumped together that they're assumed to be the same thing, but that's just not the case. In the context of the workplace, diversity equals representation. Without inclusion, however, the crucial connections that attract diverse talent, encourage their participation, foster innovation, and lead to business growth won't even happen. As noted diversity advocate Verna Myers puts it, diversity is being invited to the party, inclusion is being asked to dance. So today we are here to talk about inclusion and how imperative it is to be ingrained in the workplace. Some organizations have practices that are embedded in a company's culture that potentially make a segment of its workforce feel unwelcome. These practices must be unlearned in order to truly embrace inclusiveness. So today we will define what an inclusive workplace is, examine what it looks like, share the benefits of having one, discuss how to evaluate your current culture, and list the steps to change it. Do we have any gardeners here? Anybody, can you just wave your hand if you know anything about gardening? Great. I see in my screen, I see at least one person. Okay, good. Well, then you should appreciate this. Look at this garden. I mean, it's quite elaborate. I have friends who have very beautiful gardens, and I learned that if you are going to be good at gardening, it takes a lot of hard work, diligence, acceptance that something may not grow as planned. You have to really get to know your flowers and plants. For instance, some of these grow better in the shade while others need more sunlight. Some need to be watered more often than others. You only know that because you pay attention to their different needs. What works for some plants or flowers may not work for others, yet they're all able to cohabitate. They make room for the others that are planted right next to them, adapting to the differences, but they're accepting of the others even though they are very different. A plant does not shrivel up because it's sharing space with beautiful flowers, but they seem to embrace their beauty and continue to grow. Much like a garden, our workplaces should be a place where employees can be their authentic selves, where everyone is treated with dignity and respect, where the talents and skills of different groups are valued, and where productivity improves because everyone embraces the beauty of what others bring to the table so that all continue to grow. This is an inclusive environment, one where the principles of fairness, respect, equality, dignity, and autonomy are promoted and are reflected in the organization's core values and behaviors. So what does an inclusive workplace look like? In an inclusive workplace, there is a welcoming workplace culture where everyone is treated with respect and dignity and everyone feels valued. Policies are in place concerning equality and human rights, working conditions, dignity at work, employee welfare, and fair recruitment and procurement practices. Members of staff at all levels are aware of the inclusive values of the organization and are actively consulted and involved in policy development. The workforce is representative of the local community or customers, or if not, underrepresented groups are encouraged to apply. All employees are encouraged to develop and progress, and any barriers faced by specific groups are identified and action taken to address them. The organization is aware of any potential tensions within the workplace and takes action to anticipate and address them. I think one of the worst things an organization can do is ignore the potential tensions as if they are going to work themselves out. Unnecessary hierarchies are discouraged, and inclusive strategies are fully supported and promoted by senior staff. So, what are some of the benefits to having an inclusive culture? More employers are realizing that creating and promoting an inclusive workplace maximizes productivity, attracts new talent, and increases employee commitment. And organizations' action on equality and human rights issues can have a significant impact upon their brand reputation. So inclusion makes good business sense. There are 4 main benefits to an inclusive culture, and we'll go through these one by one. Attracting new talent. Inclusive workplaces that openly communicate their values and strategies on equality, human rights, and inclusion are capitalizing on this as they are able to attract a wider pool of applicants and talent. Candidates from minority groups may put off applying for positions in organizations that do not make their commitment to inclusion known. So making inclusion a part of the language, even in job postings or descriptions, is imperative. Another benefit is retaining productive and committed employees. Inclusive workplaces that understand the needs of their employees and make staff feel valued and respected also have a greater success in retaining staff. Having a range of policies in place to ensure that all employees are able to balance work with other aspects of their lives has a positive impact on job satisfaction, productivity, and commitment. It also creates wider customer appeal and access to untapped markets. If your employees come from a diverse background or from diverse backgrounds, and your company values are based around inclusion and fairness, your business has much greater potential to reach further into different sections of the community, appealing to a wider customer and supplier base. Excuse me. It also creates culture change. Cultural change within the workplace will spread outward into the wider community as colleagues learn more about each other and pass on this knowledge to others. Creating change at work can bring benefits that spread much further than the confines of one organization's walls. Some organizations believe they have an inclusive culture. On the surface, that may seem true, but their employees might think differently. Despite growing awareness, progress just isn't fast enough. Research shows that 2/3 of leaders feel they create empowering environments in which employees can be themselves, raise concerns, and be innovative. But just 1/3 of employees agree. So closing this perception gap will yield substantial benefits for leaders and their employees. As a leader, what can you do to create an inclusive workplace? It begins with an evaluation of your current culture. If you are serious about addressing diversity and inclusion issues at your company, here are 4 questions that I believe all workplace leaders should ask. 1, does your decision-making table have representation from all the demographics that you employ and/or serve? If there are groups missing from the table, then their concerns aren't being properly discussed or considered. Are you cultivating a sense of belonging? To be a truly inclusive company means your employees feel like they can bring their whole selves, whole and best selves to work every day and feel like they not only contribute, but that they are wanted and they belong. When someone feels like the organization values their unique perspective and skills that their life experiences has granted them, they will be more engaged, creative, and productive. Have you made diversity and inclusion part of someone's job description or expected responsibilities? Try building inclusion change champions, which are comprised of business leaders who recommend, implement, or sponsor programs based on building awareness and spreading knowledge, understanding and removing barriers, innovation and diversity of thought, recruiting and development, and/or behaviors and experiences related to demographic diversity of your employee base. And last, are business leaders actively and regularly engaged in the conversations and programs related to diversity and inclusion? This is a crucial piece of changing internal culture and showing employees that the company cares about their diversity and what they uniquely bring to the table. If you answered no to any of these questions, it's time to act. What does it take? According to research by the Harvard Business Review, there are 4 levers that drive inclusion. And let's take a closer look at each of these. Inclusive leaders. This kind of leadership is a conglomeration of 6 behaviors. And let's go through these one by one. Ensuring that team members speak up and are heard. One helpful tip to encourage your staff to speak up is to have a true open door policy. Every employee should feel comfortable speaking to their fellow employees, regardless of their title. One way to encourage this behavior is to set up an open door policy in which you specify that everyone is welcome to come to you with their thoughts about business processes or to share creative ideas. Another behavior is making it safe to propose novel ideas. Now, this is going to take more than the generic, how can we improve, to draw out your team's best ideas. Your team likely has questions of their own, such as, do you really want to hear what I have to say? Is it safe to share a critical view or perspective different from yours? Are you humble enough to hear feedback? Of course, you don't want just any ideas, right? So you want good ideas, but how you respond to any incomplete, off base, or inelegant ideas makes all the difference as to whether you're going to get their participation in the future when you do need their contributions. So if you stop listening, they'll stop sharing, and that's not what you want. This is a good time to apply the idea framework that one source suggests. IDEA stands for interesting, doable, engaging, and actions. Interesting. Why is this idea interesting? What strategic problem does it solve? Doable. Is this idea something we could actually do? How would we make it happen? Engaging. Who would we need to engage to make this happen? Why should they support it? And actions. What are the most important actions needed to try this? How would we start? By telling your team you're looking for interesting, doable, engaging actions, you are consistently asking and teaching them how to know a good idea when they see one. Another behavior is empowering team members to make decisions. One of the worst things, well, I should say another bad thing that you can do as a leader is micromanage your team. Like, I'm really passionate about this. It's very deceptive. It's a very deceptive business technique that might appear to be productive, but it is not. And this can actually create a toxic business environment. But empowering employees to make decisions for your business can actually free up your time as a leader, increase employee efforts, and boosts engagement throughout the organization. And that's what you want. So what you can do to empower your team to make decisions is work toward a common goal. Employees will feel empowered from the start of any project when you make the decision-making process collaborative. State a goal, then ask questions to gain input on how to navigate the course to getting there. Create a strengths-based culture. When employees are able to use their strengths at work, their confidence builds and they'll feel more empowered. You also want to reinforce positive behavior. When you let go of micromanaging and empower your team, yes, some really honest mistakes could be made. That's bound to happen, but it's okay. If mistakes happen, don't browbeat or punish employees. Just make them teachable moments with constructive feedback and something that's going to help employees understand what led to the mistake and how to avoid making it in the future. You also want to keep the lines of communication open and be an encouraging mentor. Another behavior of an inclusive leader is taking advice and implementing feedback. You also want to give actionable feedback and share credit for team success. Of employees who report that their team leader has at least 3 of these traits, 87% say they feel welcome and included in their team. 87% say they feel free to express their views and opinions. And 74% say they feel that their ideas are heard and recognized. For respondents who reported that their team leader has none of these traits, the numbers drop considerably to 51%, 45%, and 37%. Authenticity. This is another lever that drives inclusion. And it's not surprising that everyone expends energy by repressing parts of their persona in the workplace in some way. But according to HBR's research, 37% of African Americans and Hispanics and 45% of Asians say they need to compromise their authenticity to conform to the company's standards of demeanor or style. Research on women in the science, engineering, and technology industries shows that regardless of gender, acting like a man can provide an advantage in becoming a leader in these fields. So I want to go back to those percentages that I just talked about. 37% of African Americans and Hispanics and 45% of Asians say they need to compromise their authenticity. Can you imagine walking into a building full of people and seeing no one there that looks like you? Maybe you have. And unfortunately, this has been the case at some of the places where I've worked. In these environments, I often had to put up with microaggressions because the company's workplace culture did not embrace diversity and inclusion and seemed to, what my colleague Stella Skeljack and my other colleague Angie majorly referred to as permitting and promoting poor behaviors and practices that were potentially harmful, because now here's someone thrown into the mix that stands out like a sore thumb. And since no one had received any type of diversity and inclusion training, found themselves very awkward in how they interacted with me. So now I'm in this environment and trying to navigate my way through an organization that doesn't seem to set me up to succeed. Constantly having to question when it was a good time to speak up because I did not want to be viewed as the aggressive, angry Black girl in the room, or working extra hard, extra hard, just to prove that I belong there by going the extra mile, coming in early, staying late, working on weekends, in hopes that in the future it'll pay off and I be considered for a promotion when the employee who came in after me, who looked like the rest of them, received a promotion in less than a year. There was one time I was sitting in the break room and a group of employees were talking about the music awards that were on the night before. And they were going back and forth about someone. I had my earbuds in and I really wasn't paying close attention, but I did hear them say something about, well, what was the name of the song? They got kind of excited and they're like, oh, we'll ask DJ. Yes, that's my nickname. That's what some people call me. So they turned to me and they said, DJ, what's that song? What's that one popular song by Nipsey Hussle? And I went thinking to myself, who in the world is Nipsey Hussle? So I'm sitting there, I didn't answer them. I'm Googling and lo and behold, it's a rapper. I don't even listen to rap music. I thought, like, how dare they, because I'm Black, think that I would just happen to know what this, who this artist even was. And when I told this story to my parents much later, they laughed because I grew up listening to music, and I am not that old, from the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and down to this day, this is what I choose to listen to. So, rap music, not on the top of my list, and I didn't know who this person was. So I was very offended. I didn't say this to them, but this certainly weighed heavy on my mind. Not to mention the unfair practices in the office, right? These really unspoken rules that are in the office. I would often be afraid to ask, could I leave early? My son played the violin for many years and he had concerts, school concerts, a couple of times or several times throughout the year. And I just wanted to be able to leave early to support my child. Everyone else in the office left when they felt like it to, oh, my son's got a ball game, so I'm getting out of here early, when it was always emphasized that I needed to ask. And then there's the topic of my hair. I don't mind talking about my hair when people ask questions, but this one particular time, I think I had changed my hairstyle like 3 weeks in a row. And this really bothered my former supervisor, so much so that she was staring at me during a staff meeting, and she looked right at me and said, "Why do you do that?" And I said, "Do what?" "Change your hair all the time." And I responded in true Dawn Janae fashion, "Why do you keep yours the same?" I mean, is it a lack of creativity, or do you just not feel comfortable? And she went on to express that she's worn her hair the same way for the past 30 years. And she could never imagine drawing so much attention to herself the way that I do. And then said, "Well, but I guess I like this hairstyle too." Or the coworkers that walk right up to me and put their fingers in my hair as if they've never seen anyone with curly hair before. I don't know any Black women who like for people to put their fingers in their hair. Don't touch my hair. It was not anything that I welcomed. I was very uncomfortable with this. So this is something that I felt like was certainly a waste of my energy. I think at the end of every day, I was more exhausted from my interactions with people in the workplace than the actual work that I was doing. And each day it took a lot out of me. Networking and visibility. Here's another lever that drives inclusion. For women and people of color, the key to rising above a playing field that remains stubbornly uneven is mentorship. A mentor, a senior level leader, elevates their mentees' visibility within these corridors of power, advocates for key assignments and promotions for them, and puts their reputation on the line for the mentees' advancement. For those who feel marginalized by their gender, ethnicity, age, sexual identity, or educational and economic background, mentorship is particularly crucial in invigorating ambition and driving engagement. Having a mentor increases the likelihood of being satisfied with the rate of career advancement. Conversely, lack of mentorship increases someone's likelihood of quitting within a year. Another lever is clear career paths. For women and LGBTQ individuals and people of color, the map to career success is murky. HBR's research shows that 45% of women off their career track are the main ones responsible for caring for their children, although the elder care is increasingly pulling people off their career track, with 24% leaving to care for aging relatives. But a significant number of women also feel pushed off the ladder. 29% say their career isn't satisfying, and 23% feel stalled in their careers. Comments from women in focus groups note that they're frustrated by being passed over for high-profile assignments, and they have a general sense of missing out on the right opportunities. LGBTQ individuals and people of color too struggle to name a simple solution to open up a blocked career path. Ironically, it's usually the majority group that presumes to identify the reason these people aren't advancing, which too often results in the problem being oversimplified. Companies should start from the simple but fundamental understanding that there are different perspectives, each of them valuable, and work to explore and identify the range of barriers holding these individuals back. Focusing on these 4 levers can elicit real change. HBR's research finds that employees with inclusive managers are 1.3 times more likely to feel that their innovative potential is unlocked. Employees who are able to bring their whole selves to work are 42% less likely to say they intend to leave and find another job within a year. And those with mentors are 62% more likely to have asked for and have received a promotion. And 69% of women who off-ramp would have stayed at their companies if they had flexible options would, of course, still be there. So how can all of this be changed? What can we do to change this? Let's talk about some step-by-step measures you can take to make your workplace more inclusive. There are 5 stages in this process. So again, let's talk about them one by one. First, consider what you want to accomplish. The first stage of this process involves looking at your organization, its size, the type of work it does, where it's located, who it employs, and who uses its services, what the goals are, and thinking about how it could become more inclusive. Your organization, no doubt, has particular characteristics, and business needs must be factored in. There may be sector-specific standards and legal requirements and duties with which you need to comply, and you might provide services for very diverse or very similar communities and customers. You might experience particular skill or people shortages that you fill with an agency, or you may be located within an industry or sector that has traditionally been filled with one gender, ethnic group, or staff of certain ages. You might have a dispersed workforce in different locations that rarely comes together face to face. All of these things can present challenges, and all of these factors will influence what's contained in your action plan. Considering the situation of your organization and how you would like to see it change will set the context for the next stage of the process, which is an inclusion review of your workplace. So you want to do an inclusion review. When reviewing inclusion and equality in your organization, you should consider the following areas: the demographics of your organization and customer base. All organizations are different, so the first thing you will need to do is examine what the demographic makeup of your workplace is. Compiling and analyzing data on your staff by age, gender, ethnic group, religion or belief, sexual orientation, and disability, and noting where in the organization's structure employees belonging to different groups work. All of this will help you to identify any underrepresented groups and areas of occupational segregation. The other thing you want to consider when doing an inclusion review is your formal policies and procedures. The formal policies and practices of your organization can tell you a lot about how much you have previously thought about inclusion, human rights, and equality. When reviewing these policies, you will find it very helpful to look at policies to deal with discrimination, bullying, and harassment. Do you have clear and well-known policies that set out the behavior you expect in the workplace? Procedures to deal with tensions and difference between groups. If you have employed different groups of workers who may be likely to disagree or have misconceptions about each other, Do you have procedures in place to deal with this? Disciplinary and grievance procedures. Do you have clear disciplinary and grievance procedures that are followed by all managers, accessible to employees and easily understood? Policies on flexible working. Do you have procedures in place for dealing with requests to work flexibly in a fair and objective manner? Procedures for caregivers, parents, and expected parents. What policies do you have in place on maternity, paternity, and adoption leave and pay, breastfeeding, parental leave, and time off for dependents? Recruitment and promotion procedures. Are your procedures for recruitment and promotion transparent and equally accessible to all applicants? There are so many other policies, so many more we could talk about, but that your organization really does need to consider, but time won't permit me to go into them all. So of course, if you contact me after today's presentation, I'd be happy to go through more of this information with you, but that's just to name a few. Another area that you need to consider when doing an inclusion review are your informal or unwritten working practices. Examining informal working culture can be very difficult to do, right? Because it's not tangible. These are just things that happen, that go on, these unspoken rules. But the aim is just to find out if there are gaps between what is written in your policies and everyday working practices within the organization. I hope that makes sense. And arrangements for staff consultation and participation is another area to consider. Are there clear procedures for how staff can communicate with managers and directors? Are staff consulted on changes to policies and practices that will affect their working lives? Are they actively involved in initiatives around working culture? If this is not the case, it is more likely that your efforts to create inclusive working will not succeed, because employees may feel that measures are being forced upon them without the chance to give their opinions. The next stage is to create an action plan. Having reviewed your workplace in terms of equality and inclusion, the next stage is to decide upon the action you will take. Note the key changes you would like to make as a result of your review, and then prioritize these changes to help you decide where to start. Some measures you may wish to consider as part of your action plan are: actively involve all employees. Encourage employees to take part in equality monitoring. Build a culture of inclusion and respect. Ensure the organization's core values include a commitment to equality, human rights, and inclusive working. Training for all staff on inclusive working, human rights, and equality, and make inclusion a key management approach. You also should take an inclusive approach to recruitment, promotion, and development. Make equality, diversity, human rights, and inclusive working part of job descriptions. Equality and human rights training for all staff involved in recruitment and a fair and transparent selection process. And offer mentoring opportunities to junior and new staff. You also want to encourage engagement with the local community. If you need help or ideas on how to connect with your community as leaders, please contact me for more information about that. So all of these things need to be considered when creating your action plan. You also want to communicate the plan and put it into action. How do you go about communicating this? I think it involves laying out the groundwork for your diversity and inclusion strategy. It's easier to tell a coherent story if your company has a clear understanding of why enhancing diversity and inclusion is important, as well as the steps it will take to ensure greater diversity. Setting achievable goals. Once you have a strategy in place, it's important to set clear goals and objectives to carry out the initiative. By doing so, you are setting your employees, you're setting up the framework for them, right? By letting them know that D&I is a serious investment that the organization is willing to make. You want to action your talk. That's really important. You can't gain employee trust when you don't walk the talk. It's important for communicators to keep their workplace informed of all the actions they have already taken and that they are going to take in the near future. And you also want to put together a multi-channel diversity and inclusion communication plan. Social media and digital tools play a role in everyone's daily routine. So why not use these tools such as internal email, intranets, social apps, and internal blogs to communicate the D&I initiatives with all the employees. And finally, oh, how did this happen? And finally, the last stage in the process is to review and monitor the plan's impact. In order to create a working culture of inclusion, respect, and opportunity for all, it is essential that everyone in the organization, from senior management on to the most junior staff, that everyone is engaged with and involved in the process of creating this culture and really feels that their opinions and experiences are valued. Give inclusion recognition by ensuring that it is integrated into all key business and performance objectives so that inclusive thinking becomes a part of your company culture. You guys, our time is coming to an end. I feel like I've been vomiting on you verbally for like the past hour, and I don't know about you, but that was a lot of information, even for me to have processed after putting it all together. So I do want to share one more thing with you. I'm really disappointed that the first video didn't play, but I'm curious to see if this one will play, because I really want to share this with you before we go into a question and answer session. So let me see if this will work. Could you hear it?
No.
No? So I wonder if I stop. I'm sorry. Where? Oh, they are on. Okay, the captions are on. So please just pay attention to the video. You guys, do not be one of the companies left in the dust. I think we all have a lot of work to do. I thank all of you for your time today to listening to this presentation. And I am going to turn it back over to our chairman.
Thank you so much, Dawn. I think that there was a lot of really great information in that. I think one of the reasons that we couldn't hear the audio that you were playing, maybe because you had your earbuds in. So if you wouldn't mind sending me the link to that last video, I can share it with everyone afterwards. Because I think we all wanted to be able to hear it. So that would be great. We do have a couple of questions in the comments, and as I start reading through these, if anybody else has any questions, please type them in the comments and we will get to them. So let us start with number one. If your employer is not following few or any of the items that you have suggested, what are the first 3 steps that you can suggest taking? You're on mute. Sorry, hang on. You muted yourself. There we go.
Okay, sorry. Sorry about that. I thought it was going to be better for me to hear with my earbuds out, but I apologize. Could you
No worries.
please repeat the question?
Oh, sorry. Okay, so if your employer is not following a few or any of the items that you have suggested, what are the first 3 steps that you can suggest taking? So if you're working for a company that's not doing any of these things.
That is really difficult, right? Because I've been in that situation before where I worked for a company that wasn't doing any of these things. I would ask to speak to a manager one-on-one and address these concerns, or just state my concerns. The second thing I would probably do is be very prepared with a bullet list, a very short bullet list of what kind of changes I think could be made and how we could go about making those small changes. I would certainly not go into a room not prepared. I would have some very specific things in mind, do not deviate from the list. I always think having something in writing to take with you when you're going to have a serious conversation certainly helps, because it keeps emotion out of the picture when you're talking to them. And then just offering some really simple things that could be done to try to change the nature of it, of what's going on, because sometimes they're just simply unaware that these things are going on, especially with microaggressions, right? People think that it's just they're regular insults. They're not. These are constant little things that are being done on a daily basis that sometimes if a person just simply is told, hey, did you know that that really makes me feel like X, Y, and Z? So I would suggest doing that. Have some note for yourself, some specific incidents, have a very short bullet list and solutions that you think will help contribute to making a change. I hope that answered your question. Uh-oh.
Okay, I think Lilia is frozen. I think that's going to be the consensus here. I think it's 11 o'clock. Oh, you're right. Okay, you're unfrozen now.
Was that me?
And there it is again.
Okay, so I think we have
Sorry.
one more.
We're frozen again.
I think we're going to have one more question. Would you recommend a grassroots approach to these, or bringing them to a higher leader who may or may not be receptive to the idea?
That is very difficult too, right? When things are not supported from the very top, it is always harder to get other people on board. But I certainly feel like starting even with your own department, it's amazing the change that can be made just within a very small group of people. And as you implement things, even in that very small group, it's amazing how things it's like a ripple effect almost, I think. But it really can start with you can start with a very small group of people. So taking this to your direct supervisor is certainly not a bad idea. Sometimes the person at the very top is not even, this isn't even on their radar. And right now with COVID-19 going on, some people are simply just in survival mode. So they don't even have the foresight to even worry about diversity and inclusion. That is not to say that that is not very important to address right at this moment, but starting small. And sometimes you have to start small in order for bigger and wider change to be accepted. I hope I answered that question.
I think so. So I'm pretty sure Lilia
It's gone.
evaporated. We have another question. When planning a roundtable discussion within a department, what is the best way to facilitate openness to understanding and learning?
Ooh, to understand. So first, not to be judgmental about what the person is saying. Really just taking off, I think just stepping back and really thinking about what a person is saying versus number one, how they're saying it or the nature of what's being talked about, and really just trying to hone in and understand what's being conveyed. I hope that to me, that's number one. And asking questions. Sometimes you just need to ask questions to get clarification on something. If you don't ask questions, how would you know? You don't want to walk away with having assumptions or feeling like you knew exactly what they were talking about. There's no shame in just asking a question for something to be clarified. I do this a lot. I ask my son to do this because it's easy to form opinions and form assumptions, but when you are sitting at a table and if everyone is truly being open about a discussion, certainly asking more questions for them to clarify what's being said so that you don't walk away feeling like you as a person saying it was misrepresented or that you don't have an understanding of what they were trying to say. Does that make sense? Okay.
I was having issues. Lilia, do you have any other questions that people have sent you?
No, since it kicked me out and I rejoined, it's not showing me any of the previous chat. So
Uh-oh.
nobody else sent anything privately. So if there's anything in the chat that anybody sent, it was part of the group conversation. So you should be able to see it.
Okay. Well, Dawn, this was wonderful and a great way to start off our series. This is a 4-part series. Today was number 1. Next week, Stella will be following up on this from the HR point of view, correct?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Heidi has raised her hand.
Heidi?
Oh.
Okay.
No, you didn't know. She didn't mean to.
No, that's a clap.
Oh, thank you. So you guys, is it okay if I share my contact information with you? By all means, I hope that you will reach out to me in the very near future. And yes, I will send the video because it really was a beautiful video. I know you were able to read the captions, but actually hearing, you weren't even able to read the captions? Why didn't someone stop me?
We could see
Well, here's the thing. The captions went too fast, and sometimes they were in front of a shirt that wouldn't allow us to read it all, and it would be better to hear.
I totally agree. So I will definitely forward that link. And also, if you reach out to me via email, I gave you my personal email address. I want to be able to share with you the 5 steps to improving company culture. So if that is something that you're interested in or would like to take back to your workplaces and share with colleagues, I'd be more than happy to give you that list of how to make improvements. And again, she did mention that Stella Skeljak, this is my awesome colleague. I love Stella. I hope you all come back for her presentation on July 29th. And I feel so passionate about this information that we're sharing. Our workplaces we spend majority of our day there. Our workplaces are, and the employees are extended family, so to speak. So really addressing these issues even now, especially with COVID in our midst, is, I think, really important.
I just want to, on behalf of the chamber, I want to say thank you again to Dawn. We're a little bit over time, so I want to wrap things up because people probably have other Zooms that they have to get on, because that's all we do these days is Zoom, right? So I just want to thank everyone again. In the chat, there is a link for the survey. We would love for you guys to fill it out so we can better tailor our presentations to what you're looking for. I will send out an email today, and that'll have the link for the survey again, and I'll also include the link to the video. So once I get that from Dawn. Thank you guys for attending. We really hope to see you for the rest of the series. And Dawn will be back for the fourth part, which brings back all the previous panelists for a group discussion. So we hope to see you guys for the other 3 parts. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you again, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.